just leave this one here.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming out here today. My name is Adi and I'm here with Parth, and together we're the best-selling authors of Bubbler Revolution. We're here to talk to you about the future of Web3, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies. A little bit about us. I was a product manager at Microsoft for 4 years, Parth at Facebook, and we wrote Bubbler Revolution 5 years ago to kind of dissect. You see crypto going through boom and bust cycles, and we wanted to dissect what's real and what's not in this space. And so what we're going to do here in this talk is we're going to show you some of those building blocks so that you can help make predictions about the future. Now, in the last year, since we've quit our jobs, we've been working on an ed tech startup and angel investing in and advising different crypto startups, along with startups in other spaces. So hopefully some of this will be applicable. The last time we did a talk like this was pre-COVID at a blockchain conference in Malta. And we made a prediction there that was in the peak bear market that actually ended up coming true 2 or 3 years ago. This prediction was that China, which notoriously has a negative stance on crypto, has just banned Bitcoin mining, always has some of these harsh regulations. Oh, are the slides not playing? Okay, give us like 1 second. The slides are relevant for this. Thank you. Yeah, still no. If you have like HDMI, we could go direct to the TV too. No luck. We can also send you the file if you have a laptop that works with it. We can do it without the slides too. We don't need the slides.
Go ahead and push on, and I'll try to get it to work for you.
Okay.
Just go ahead and
Just keep doing it? Okay, so we're just going to roll without the slides. That's okay. So as I was saying, we made a prediction. There would be a nice, pretty slide here of us presenting this 2-3 years ago in Malta. And the prediction that we made then during peak bear market was that essentially China was going to be the first country to launch a CBDC. We had been looking at the covert patent applications that China was filing. China had just been added by the IMF as a global reserve currency. And so what we wanted to show you was when we're making these predictions, there are some building blocks that we have, some ways of thinking that help us make these predictions. So in the first half, we were going to teach you those, and then the second half, we're going to make some brand new predictions about the future. So when we think about this space, one of the most fundamental things when you think about a cryptocurrency, one of the building blocks of Web3, is the question of what is money? And this is a question that people have thought of for over 2,000 years. Aristotle was the first one who came up with a formal definition of what is money. But the funny thing is, I would have had a screenshot here of when you Google what is money, you actually get some really funny results. You see the first result is money is the root of all evil, which low-key might be facts. But you see a lot of things like that. You see money's evil, money's everything. And so this goes to show that this is a thought that people still 2,000 years later are thinking about. And so Aristotle defined money with 4 key properties. He said that money is durable, it's portable, it's divisible, and it has some intrinsic store of value. And so when you look at commodities like gold and silver, which were used back then, they hit all 4 of these metrics. But modern money, as you know, fiat money, it's not really durable if it's cash. It doesn't have intrinsic value. It's your faith in the US government, for example, with the USD. And similarly, crypto has, it meets 3 of those checkboxes, but there's nothing intrinsically backing it. And so when you think about this space, what you have to start thinking about is, there are some fundamentals here, but how is this going to play out in the future if there's nothing intrinsically backing it? And you see, 2 sides of the coin. Jamie Dimon, back in a few years ago, made the quote that Bitcoin is going to be, a bigger bubble than tulips. We had a little clip of him actually saying that live. And then just a few years later, JP Morgan put a $150,000 price target on Bitcoin. And so these companies, these influencers, these leaders that we respect, flip-flop on cryptocurrencies, Web3, blockchain. And so how do you actually know what's real and what's not in this space? The analogy that we wanted to give was that right now, Web3 is in the Wild West. It's kind of like the US during the free banking era in the mid-1800s. What happened during that time was essentially banks could choose silver, gold, any other metals to back the US dollar. And so a dollar would be backed by a different metal or a different amount of that metal depending on where you got it. And so this created a lot of inconsistencies with trade and commerce. But when the Free Banking Act in 1863 came in effect, we got the gold standard. And what this did was it made sure banks had to keep a certain amount of gold for every single dollar in a vault. And so now there was a guaranteed backing behind every dollar. Similarly, right now in Web3, with all these different, if you look at stablecoins, one of the core building blocks of Web3, you see fiat-backed coins, you see crypto-backed coins, you see different ways of collateralizing, you see treasury models. All of these are different ways which people are experimenting, but there's still no gold standard for the right way to move forward. And because of that, we get volatility. And volatility is the last thing you want in a currency. And so to explain this more, I'm going to hand it off to Parth to talk more about how a currency can get more stable so we can start building towards some of the predictions.
Hey guys, we were going to show you this really pretty slide of just kind of like a spectrum of currency stability ranging from the Venezuelan bolivar to the USD, with the Turkish lira and Bitcoin kind of in the middle. Like the adoption of cryptocurrency at like the national level really comes down to how stable your currency is. Like if you are a citizen in a country and you're using currency as a store of value for your life savings to like take care of your family, you want to rest assured and sleep at night knowing that the purchasing power you have now is something that you'll retain and have in the future if your life savings are invested in it. And so looking on that spectrum from the bolivar to the US dollar with like Bitcoin right here, the Venezuelan bolivar had inflation of 1.3 million% over the last few years, versus like the Turkish lira declined about 38% last year. Which is like pretty comparable to Bitcoin, but like it's even though that Bitcoin has those sort of fluctuations over the course of a couple weeks, the lira does that over the course of a year, so it's still a bit more stable. For countries to adopt Bitcoin at the national level, their currency has to be extremely volatile. You see countries like El Salvador adopting Bitcoin, but it's not so much because it's so stable as it is that it can be, for a developing country and being the first to do so, it can bring a flux of investment from crypto bulls. It makes you an immediate contender for hosting any crypto conference you want, and much more. So our big prediction, the reason we got invited to speak here, was because in 2019, we successfully predicted that China would be the first major currency to tokenize their currency. And so our rationale for that prediction was essentially that a few things. One, China has 10-year goals that they publicly kind of announce. And one of the big ones for the last decade was to be a reserve currency. So there were previously 4 global reserve currencies: the Japanese yen, the US dollar, the euro, and the British pound. China, as a growing economic powerhouse, has been investing heavily in trying to become a reserve currency. And in 2015, the International Monetary Fund actually made them an official reserve currency. But the adoption of their currency for reserve holdings has been very low, low single-digit percentage. However, China accounts for about 27% of GDP growth year over year for the last 5 years. So it's obviously an economic powerhouse that wants even more influence on a global stage. One of the issues China faces is they've had a long history of deflating their currency to spur increased trade as the power of the yuan goes down and other currencies are more powerful because of it. By tokenizing their currency, we saw an opportunity for them to have more transparency, at least perceived transparency, and get more interest in holding them as a reserve currency. So that was our previous prediction. But now let's get into the exciting stuff. What are our predictions? We had a slide that we were going to show you, which was like a screenshot from Bloomberg in August of 2021, which was like a chart showing venture capital investment in crypto, Web3, all of that fun stuff. In August, everyone was saying like, oh my God, it's like 17 billion. To put things into perspective, in 2020, the entire crypto investment was around 5 bill by VCs. By end of year, it went from 17 in August to $31 billion invested. So obviously, VCs are very excited investing in companies that could be the next Microsoft or Google. But let's talk a bit about what Microsoft and Google are doing. So we spent like 20 minutes just like digging around to see what we can find. Obviously, for like publicly traded companies like this, they're not just gonna put their roadmap on like Google Slides and share it out. So a fun hack you can do if you're interested in learning what a company's up to, go on their employment sites, look at their careers, and look for director or higher level roles for new verticals. So within like 20 minutes, we were able to find that YouTube is hiring a director of product management for YouTube Web3, and Microsoft is doing similarly for BizDev for Web3. And so you're probably thinking to yourself, like, these big tech companies are fundamentally Web 2.0. Like, why would anybody trust them with Web 3? And like, what snowball's chance in hell do they actually have of finding like product market fit here? Well, let's think about it from the perspective of YouTube, and because they're hiring right now. So think about if you were a YouTube creator right now, and you're not like a crypto influencer, you're just a creator, and you want to launch an NFT. Think about what that process is like for you. Okay, you make some art, you upload it to OpenSea, you then tell your followers, hey, like, I know you came here to watch my videos, but like, if you could go on Coinbase, convert fiat to ETH, make a MetaMask, use that MetaMask on OpenSea to buy my NFT, that would be amazing. Like, think about the alternative from the perspective of YouTube. You can, if you're actually hiring to create this vertical, you can make a seamless consumption to commerce experience where you can just abstract away all of the crypto components. If Google was to give every one of their 1.8 billion users a crypto/NFT wallet just as part of your YouTube account or part of your Google account, you have immediately just multiplied the crypto market overnight. Everything will be in a massive bull run, and that's something that's going to happen very soon, because that's a superpower of Google. They already have the accounts and they can abstract away the crypto. And then if they actually want to take it to the next level and they want to push this initiative, they can give a ranking boost to any creator who's using YouTube's NFT platform. And then if you want to take it even further, if you don't want your NFTs to just be a form of art, you want to make it a way for you as your fans, have your fans invest in you as a creator financially, you can then use YouTube's powered NFTs to do rev share of ads revenue generated. So as long as you hold that NFT, you're just being paid a portion of all future revenue. So there is a lot of potential opportunity for big tech in Web3. Like, as you guys all know, Facebook rebranded from Facebook to Meta. This wasn't something that just like happened overnight, like a PR stunt. Like, Facebook very deliberately acquired Oculus in 2014 and has been spending about $2 billion every quarter investing in R&D to have, hands down, in my opinion, dollar for dollar, the best AR/VR experience and sense of presence. It's debatable if Facebook's virtual worlds will take off, but in honesty, they don't really have to. Like, you can do the NVIDIA model where you're just selling the hardware if you have the best-in-class hardware. Like, before the metaverse and Web3 and all of these buzzwords are a thing, Facebook was working on making the tech. So they have about a 5-year head start on this technology. And Facebook isn't the only company that's interested in Web3 or the metaverse. Microsoft just spent almost $70 billion to acquire Activision King Blizzard. This gives them games like World of Warcraft, Call of Duty. Like, if you think about gaming today and NFTs, like, most of these games are like Tamagotchi style, like 2D games. They're not fundamentally games. They're NFT projects with a gaming component. But like, Microsoft now has an opportunity to fundamentally flip the model where you have first-in-class games that have made billions of dollars, this IP that people have spent over a decade playing, like Call of Duty, to create world-class NFT experiences. So our prediction here is that Web 2 companies, especially big tech companies, will actually play a meaningful role in Web 3 and the metaverse. Now I'll give it to Adi to talk about our next prediction.
Sweet. So for the next prediction, we wanted to show you a trend of what's been happening for the last 2 years. 2020 was the year of DeFi. We saw Uniswap in the summer launch, and since then DeFi TVL has been going through the roof. In 2021, we saw NFTs get volume. Hashmass and CryptoPunks in January and February launched, and because of that, there was over $20 billion in NFTs traded all of last year. And so as this starts to happen, let's make a prediction of what will happen in 22 and 23. And to understand that, let's look at a fundamental core property of humans. Humans tend to prefer organization. And that's a strong statement, but let's look at what's happened throughout ancient history. At first, the smallest unit of governance was a family. You look out for each other, you make sure you survive, you get food on the table, metaphorically. And so eventually you got families coming together, they made tribes. Tribes made villages, villages made cities, then nations. And people like this organization because it provides stability. You have a certain set of rules people act in, you have your basic needs catered for. And so this has evolved in modern day. We have organizations for companies, we have nonprofits, we have governments. But there's a funny meme I was going to show that shows how much we like organizations. There's a funny meme that most of you probably have seen of like all the big 5 to 6 tech companies and their organization charts. You see Oracle, which is just a bunch of lawyers and then like a little bit of engineering. You see Microsoft, which has 3 orgs with like guns pointed at each other. That's like the iconic meme. And so we've liked organizations so much that we have such different ways of organizing together, and yet all of these ways work. We see all of these companies be at close to or near or surpassing $1 trillion market cap now in the modern market. And so what this all comes down to is that it doesn't matter how you organize, it just needs to fit the ecosystem that you're in. And in Web3, that way of organizing is through DAOs, through decentralized autonomous organizations. And we think that DAOs can also evolve to become DACs, decentralized autonomous corporations. We can see these organizations having an actual legal entity, a LLC, a corporation, that gets registered once the DAO is formed, so that it's not just a community of people working in Web3. And so as this plays out, let's take a look at what's actually happening with DAOs. With DAOs, we saw this year, towards the end of last year, Constitution DAO raised close to $50 million via Juicebox to buy a copy, one of the few copies of the US Constitution. And this was a great experiment, which essentially showed that people, an activist group of people, will get together for a shared cause in the span of a weekend, raise a large amount of money, and they'll be able to try to execute on that vision. And so, looking at Juicebox, which is the primary way of raising this money, the TradFi ways of doing this are through GoFundMe or Kickstarter, but recently they've been taking some heat in the news because they started banning certain projects from actually being able to raise money on there. And whichever stance you side on that political side, whether you think it's ethically right or wrong for them to do it, as long as they keep doing that, people are going to move to, it's risk management. People are going to move to a platform that doesn't carry the risk of them getting banned. And so as this starts to happen and people start to trust these DAOs, which have a few leaders who are running them, they're still shaping this vision, we start to see DAOs getting a bigger scope in the media. A bigger scope in Web3. And so our first prediction for this is that in the first 18 months, the next 18 months or so, we see DAO forming a SuperPAC. A SuperPAC is a political action committee. And we think that the first most obvious use case here is for a DAO to try to make crypto regulation easier. This will start affecting the midterm elections, it'll start affecting the presidential election, and then what people will start realizing is that you can make special interest DAOs. It doesn't just need to be for crypto regulation, it can be for tactical causes you believe in, like if you want to make a DAO about climate change, you can do that. And so in order for these DAOs to evolve to this next stage, you need to solve the big problem of talent management. You need to know what people have worked on in the past. And so one of the companies that we're lucky to have Angel invested in is called Contribution Labs. It's a company that's solving this talent management problem by making it so that you can track ownership of work in Web3. They're taking off-chain contributions and turning them into on-chain contributions using NFTs, acknowledgements, and other projects that they're building. And so given all of this tooling that's coming in, you can now track your identity in Web3. So building on this vision, now that you have these super PACs in the political scene, you can also see DAOs investing in corporations. We think that a DAO, just like GME saw a populist group of investors come in and take a board and treat GME not as a discounted cash flow like a traditional investment, they saw it as a venture investment. We can see a DAO coming in, going to a Twitter or Robinhood, where they haven't been focusing on crypto as the main narrative, and they can go in and try to change that, and they can raise a lot of money to make that a primary objective of the company. And I can hand it off to Parth for a last step on this to build on this vision.
So our final prediction is that we see, like a big trend we saw in 2021 was that the emergence of SPACs, or these blank check companies. The problem with SPACs, traditional SPACs, is you raise a bunch of money and they'll try to bring a private company public, but if that doesn't work out, it's just a general theme and you're just going down your list of like trying to find a company that you can take private to public. We see that as like kind of a broken system. The idea of SPACs, of bringing a private company public and like raising funds to do so, is great, but like you need to be much more deliberate, and that's not possible with SPACs. So our big prediction today is that we see in the next 24 months that a major private company, a DAO, will come in, raise money to bring a company public through a SPACing out of sorts. And what's great about DAOs is through the smart contract, if you can't get the company you want at like terms that are acceptable to everyone part of the DAO, they can be contractually just returned all of their money in a seamless way, which is not really possible with SPACs today. My name is Parth Detroja. This is Adi. We are the best-selling authors of Bubble or Revolution. Thank you so much.